Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I am the director of Through God's Grace Ministry, who hosts work groups for people who are community, state, and national leaders, as well as pastors who are working to fight human trafficking and child exploitation. This event on mobilizing the community to end human trafficking is one of the most important events that we have ever done because we simply don't have enough resources with law enforcement or nonprofits to truly end this cruel exploitation of children. We need to become skillful at mobilizing our communities to take action. Like most of our events, there's a short presentation in the beginning of about 20 minutes by an expert, who in this case is myself, and then we give our audience an opportunity to share what God has inspired them to do. It was so encouraging to hear people all across the US and Canada share how they're mobilizing their community. During my presentation, I mentioned that I would be sending the PowerPoint as well as the flyers I had mentioned out to people. You can find the PowerPoint and flyers at our website on the Educational Resource tab, together with this video in the section entitled Mobilizing the Community. We begin our event with Isaac McKeon leading us in our opening prayer.
All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together from different parts of the country and in the world. Father, we ask that you just bless this time, guide us, inspire us, and Father, just use us as you have throughout last year. And as we go into this year, starting this new event, we pray that you just give us the wisdom, the clarity, the understanding. And may we all be humble enough to listen and be inspired today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Anyway, I'm going to do a short presentation. It's going to be about 20 minutes. And then after that, I want to hear from you all on what you're personally doing to mobilize your community. So we'll have an opportunity to connect and brainstorm with each other. I mean, Isaac, I introduced earlier that he's working with men. I actually want you, Isaac, to talk a little bit about what you're doing to mobilize men. Same thing with Patrick. So we really want to hear from you to get ideas so that we can duplicate these models. So what Isaac's doing is in Orange County and in LA County, maybe even more. I don't know. When you talk, we'll hear more about that. There are people on this call who may want to duplicate what he's doing, who want to connect with him and where they are. And that's really how we're going to get this to work. Instead of continuing to reinvent the wheel, we want to duplicate actions that are working, right? Okay, so this event is on mobilizing the community to end human trafficking. So this is who we are. So Through God's Grace Ministry is a faith-based organization that empowers the faith community to fight human trafficking and child exploitation. The Bible tells us that our call to ministry is by the grace of God. His gifts are distributed according to his grace. So what does it take to end any social justice issue? I'm going to actually let you read that. So by the narrative changing, what we mean is at one point in this country, slavery was justified. Then the narrative changed to it being a great injustice. And once the narrative changed, people's actions changed. But what it takes, just changing the narrative is insufficient. What it takes is you to create critical mass. You got to create critical mass to end any social justice issue. What it takes is to teach everyone their part and then motivating them to take that action. By the way, when I'm going through this, often I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you read the slide first, and then I'm going to make comments. Because if you've ever seen the YouTube video, Death by PowerPoint, it says, if you're reading when other people are reading, they don't comprehend, and it's actually kind of annoying. So please read. So this is pretty clear, but I want to give an example of the why. So the why is accomplished by telling a story. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to discipline yourself to share a story in 3 to 4 sentences with regard to every action you want people to take, almost every action, because it's the story, the why, that's going to motivate them to do that. So I'm going to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So with regard to fair trade, I'll never forget when I heard at a conference the story of a young Korean man who, while sobbing, shared about how much he missed his older sister, who he loved so very much, who had been sold by his family so that he could eat. If his family had been part of a fair trade co-op, that wouldn't have happened. See, like 3-4 sentences makes the point. Now people are motivated to serve fair trade coffee to protect people in the third world from becoming victims of human trafficking. Okay, missed opportunities. So the point is, once people come to one event at your church or Seroptimus or whatever it is, they don't feel the need. People are busy to come to another event. They already know what human trafficking is. They don't feel like they need to do that. So you're going to have one opportunity and one opportunity only to mobilize the people who showed up at your event. And you want to keep that in mind so you don't hesitate and you don't back down from doing this. What I'm going to show you today is what you want to do at the end, and you want to make sure you allow time for it. It's really probably the most important part of your event. So brain science tells us that people, if you tell people more than 3 things, they start to get overwhelmed. So go ahead. So you don't need to understand what I just said here about compartmentalizing and labeling, because I'm going to demonstrate it, how we compartmentalize information by labeling so that you can tell people 10, 15 things to do, and they will go out and do what their thing is. Their thing is 2 or 3 things. They'll focus on those 2 or 3 things and go out and do it rather than being overwhelmed by everything. So this is how we compartmentalize. We label. Are you a sales type? So go ahead and read that. So if you're a sales type, you want to call your PTA. What's happening in at least the US, I don't know about every country in the world, is that in most states, they require that human trafficking, rape, and domestic violence awareness be taught once in junior high and twice in high school. But there is no requirement to educate parents. That's going to take advocates, you and I, to be advocates and go to our schools, go to the PTA and ask them. That's who you want to go to, and ask them to host a parent training, and they can use this statistic. 1 out of 5 children will be sexually solicited while online. Only 1 in 4 will tell their parents. With regard to meeting with your police department, ask them to incorporate what does human trafficking look like as part of the Neighborhood Watch program. Cities that have done this has resulted in scores of rescues because the traffickers and their victims have to live somewhere. So in Irvine, California, they met with people in luxury apartments and they told them what trafficking looks like is men in suits and ties coming and going during lunch and after work. And they made 3 busts that year when people saw that. And what was interesting about that is who's the least likely to think trafficking is happening next to them? People in affluent communities, but very often that is where it's happening, because these buyers are paying a lot of money and they don't want to go to the bad side of town. They want a nice experience. Are you a professional? So if you're any one of these professionals, I have a flyer, which I'll also email to you, that has 14 different trainings for professionals. We know that for health professionals, 98% of victims will see a health professional. We know the traffickers use ride shares to have the women be taken to their quote dates. There's trainings for 14 different types that I'll send you, and people can then go to where they work and ask their company to do these trainings now that they know who sponsors them and where they are. Are you the parent of a small child? So we've heard a lot about sextortion. So I'm gonna have you read this. So now I'm going to tell you the story. Remember, I told you if you tell the story, that's the why. That's what motivates people to take action. So I was talking to a friend of mine. I was having lunch with her, and she told me the way that her best friend found out that their 7-year-old was being sextorted is her 7-year-old tried to commit suicide. 7 years old. The teens sometimes succeed in committing suicide. This is a very, very serious crime. Half of those being sextorted, by the way, are young boys playing video games. It's not all girls. So if you're the parent of a young child, all you need to do is get this book. So too often what we do is this. We say, okay, there's sextortion. You need to talk to your children. Many parents don't know how to talk to their children. They feel very awkward about it. So you want to give them tools. This is probably one of the best tools you can recommend to parents who have small children. This book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, the junior edition. Let me show you what's in this book. So it shows a child what porn is that's age appropriate without creating shame. So this is very simple. A child can understand this. Now, this is the part, the next part, this is another page of the book. I took pictures of these pages with my camera. I know it's not that great, but it's good enough. This is what you want to rehearse with your child. Let's say they come across porn for any reason. You rehearse with them. Okay, what do? You turn, run, and tell a parent. Rehearse that with them. Now you've protected your child, at least from sextortion. But now I want to talk about the next part that no one talks about because it's awkward, which is how do you protect your children from pedophiles? Not almost always, but usually it's going to be the family friend. Now, for those people who are single mothers, very often the boyfriend is actually dating that single mother to have access to pedophiles to their children. So 1 out of 4 girls, 1 out of 6 boys. Now, the statistics, by the way, are moving up. Lately, I've been seeing 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 5 boys. So here's the 2 major rules. You want to keep it simple for people. And there's no need to be graphic because everyone knows what child molestation is. And it's when people start getting graphic is when people want to turn away. They don't want to deal with it. So number 1, what a pedophile is going to do is they're going to groom your child into keeping a secret. So they might do something like take your child, they become the family friend, you feel safe with them, they're babysitting them or whatever. And they'll say, listen, your mom and dad told me not to give you ice cream, but I'm going to give you ice cream, but it's going to be our secret. Don't tell them because you might get in trouble, right? So then the child says, yeah, I'm not going to tell them. They want the ice cream. If the child says yes, they're going to keep the secret. They just gave the pedophile a green light to move to the next step because now they can trust that child to keep a secret. So I'm going to tell your children, no matter what, no secrets from mom and dad. If anyone says, keep this secret, you always say yes, and then you tell mom and dad. Because if they say no, I'm going to tell my mom and dad, the pedophile may start threatening them or maybe even hurt them or something. Always say, you tell them. Say, yes, I'll keep your secret, but then tell mom and dad. Now, the no touching everyone's familiar with, but this is the problem. Pedophiles know that you have told your child that no one should touch their privates. So they're very manipulative in their approach. They're not that direct. So the child's not going to be prepared. What they do is something like this. They'll massage the child's shoulders and say, does that feel good? Child says, yeah. Then they start massaging their chest. Does that feel good? Yes. Pretty soon they're getting the child's permission every step of the way. Pretty soon they're massaging their stomach and their thighs, and it goes on from there. So you need to use common sense rules, which is something like this. With children, we'll grab them by the arm to direct them someplace. We hold their hand, we pick them up, we stroke their back to comfort them. That's all fine. So you say to your children, other than, grabbing, touching your arms and your back, no other part of your body should anybody be touching. I don't see any reason why they should, honestly. You may have thought of something I haven't thought of. Unless it's mommy or daddy or grandma or whoever it is that you designate, this will protect them from that type of manipulation. All right, now I'm on to the next one. I know I gave you a lot to think about. Some of you are thinking, oh my God. So pedophile thing. So what have I done so far? This is what I've done. I said, are you a sales type? The sales types are going to write down everything I just said for sales. Everyone else is going to not listen. They may even go on their phones. That's fine. If you're in front of the room and people are going on their phones, you actually want that because by the time you get here, people's brains are already going to start being full if they're listening to every single thing you see. You want to compartmentalize. Now, You want to say at this point, for some of you, you fall into all three categories. You're a parent of a small child, you're a great sales type, you're also a professional. So what do? First, you want to be a parent and do that. Then when you're done with that, a couple months from now, whatever, you're a professional, go to your company, ask them to do training. You're done with that, then you go do the actions for the sales type. So you're helping them organize the information into compartments and to do one compartment at a time. Then people will feel sane after your presentation. If they get bored, that's okay. Having your audience be bored, you want to be able to tolerate that. Having them be bored is a small price to pay, rather than not doing this because you don't want people to be bored or restless or whatever. So are you a great organizer? They can do these two things. You want to come into your event with some project for the organizers and ask them to help you out. We have a drive to get flyers out. So if you're a great organizer, please come see us at the end, sign our sheet, whatever you need so you can help us organize your event. Because once they leave, how are you going to find these people? Let's say that you have something you want to get done. You want to make sure you ask people, have them sign up so they can help you with whatever it is that you're trying to get done. Okay. Are you a ministry leader at a faith community? Many of you fall in this category. We've already talked about serving for a trade. We know for number 2, over 70% of victims are from the foster care system. I personally have recruited hundreds of mentors and scores of foster parents. I gave the model, I'm going to briefly describe to you, to the Los Angeles Catholic Archdiocese, and they recruited 200 foster parents over 2 weekends. And this is the change I made. A lot of pastors will do a fabulous job of reading from the Bible and encouraging people to take care of the orphan. People are already called. Those people God has called people to be foster parents. For every child in the foster care system, God has called someone. But what's in their way is not being called. What's in their way is they have concerns. So I would do a simple 3-4 minute talk at the end of the service, because I'm a foster adopted mom. I would say, come out to the table and I'll answer your questions. People would say things like, well, I rent and I can't be a foster parent, right? And I say, no, you can rent and be a foster parent. Or they would say, I work and I can't be a foster parent, right? I say, no, you can be a foster parent. They'd say, what about the parent visits? Say a social worker will come pick them up at school and bring them to the visits. You can work. And without exception, whenever I addressed whatever their concern was or stop was, they all said, really, what's the next step? And I would say, go to an orientation, and I would have a flyer with the upcoming orientations in that area that they could attend and get all their questions answered. So this is important that you address that. The third one's important. Host the program by Celebrate Recovery entitled Physical, Emotional, and Sexual Abuse. So Celebrate Recovery is a program designed for churches. They don't charge for the program. A volunteer will help train you and your volunteers. They only charge for the books. And why this is important is this. For people who've been sexually abused, either through incest, the family friend, any of that, rape, whatever, they are afraid to tell people because they know intuitively it doesn't go well. I know people have been ostracized by their families. I know people have lost friends. I know people who have had their spouses divorce them when they finally told their secret. But on the other side, what people are going to tell you is they don't even begin to heal until they told their secret. So by hosting this program at your church, it allows people to come, and very similar to an AA group, they're not allowed to share anything that's being told outside the group. So it's now safe to tell their secret. They begin healing. They'll seek therapy. They'll start doing what they need to do, because up until this point, they're paralyzed. Not only do you help people heal from sex abuse, but you're actually addressing a whole lot of other problems, because if people are left as a result of the abuse with, very low self-esteem, they aren't successful in life, a lot of the unresolved anger will often turn into them becoming a domestic violence abuser, things like that. So you're actually addressing a whole lot of social issues by healing people. through this program. So I highly recommend it. You can just go to their website, celebraterecovery.com. Are you the parent of a teen? Very important. I'll let you read these 3 rules. Number 1's for at night. Number 2, look for a second cell phone. Almost invariably, whether it's a predator, a sexual predator, meaning they're not a trafficker, they're just trying to trick someone to come meet up with them so they can lock them in their house. They pretend to be a boyfriend and they become their own personal sex slave. But without exception, both traffickers and sexual predators will send their victims a second cell phone because they know when they disappear, the first thing the police are going to do is look through their phone to see who they've been talking to. And if they don't have their phone, they can't find them. So they send them, they say, okay, this is so your parents can't listen to our conversations or know that we've been talking a lot. This is private. This is so we keep our conversations private. And the victim buys it. They're teenagers. They don't know. Number 3, watch the videos by Kobe Pearson. The reason why I recommend Kobe is I know a lot of you have your favorites, use your favorites, that's fine, but I recommend him for a reason. I have done a lot of trainings with teens, and it's hard to keep the attention of teens because what they watch in movies and everything else is so intense that I find that I can't remember the name now. Some of these videos are really nice. Parents love them. They're great for, say, 3rd through 6th grade, but with teens, you want something a little more entertaining, a little more intense. Kobe Pearson's videos have 38 million views, 38 million, because they're so entertaining. And and every time I've showed them, every teen puts their cell phone down and watches the video. So let me tell you what he does. For the boys, and I'm just going to use the example for the boys, The Danger of Social Media is the title. What he does is this. He'll get together with the parent. He said, so of course you've told your son never, to go to a stranger's house or where like that. And the parent says, of course, and never give a stranger your address. Of course, of course. So what he does is he'll send, first one is the boy's 14 years old. This girl pretends to be Amanda Green, flirts with them and say, hey, what's your address? I'll send my dad over to come pick you up so we can visit. The address comes up like that. Within 7 minutes of flirting with this kid, he's giving his address. Guy drives up in a van, says, I'm Amanda's dad. 14-year-old goes right in the van. Something you can show their parents, it will scare them to death and have them take seriously, not only talking to the girls, but talking to the boys. He also has one for girls. Okay, here's the last one. Do you have 6 hours a month? New category. Not everyone has 6 hours a month. They're not going to pay attention to what you're saying. Good. We don't want them to pay attention to every single slide. We want them to pay attention to the slide that pertains to them. That's how you motivate them. So they can contact big brothers and big sisters. By you being a mentor, you're going to build these people up. So the actions I've been sharing about, I took from the book that I wrote, How You Can Fight Human Trafficking, over 100 Ways to Make a Difference. For churches specifically, there are 30 actions in this book that work with a church. So if you're a ministry leader or whatever, you want to get this book, The Role of the Church in Ending Human Trafficking. Now, for this book, I made the ebook $1 because a lot of churches have used this book for their social justice ministries. They ask them to read it. This is so people are retired or whatever can afford to get the book. So now here's your part. We want to hear from you. What are you doing to mobilize your communities? By the way, some of you look kind of like a deer in headlights after that presentation. So after that, we take a minute to stand up and stretch. Everyone stand up and stretch. Everyone, come on, let's see you. Stand up, stretch. All right, you look more awake already. Okay. Now we're ready. Okay, so what are you doing to mobilize your community?
I have planned for a presentation on foster care. I used to tutor foster care students. And my former supervisor, I've been in touch with him over the years, which has been a really long time. He's going to come to the church where I'm active at, and he's going to do a presentation on foster care.
Beautiful.
And included in that is going to be, how to be a foster care parent as well.
Beautiful. I love it. Perfect. Good job, Judy.
Thank
What-
you.
You're welcome. Judith, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
You can call me Judy, it's fine. Judy.
Okay. Okay.
I volunteer with Ransom Life in San Antonio, and our organization works with exploited youth, and we provide counseling services for the youth as well as their entire families free of charge. We provide mentors for the youth who've been exploited, and we also have a prevention awareness arm, and that's where I volunteer. We have presentations for youth. We have presentations for parents, for the general public, and then we also have presentations for professional groups. We have them for teachers, for at-risk youth professionals, and we also have them for healthcare professionals. In the state of Texas, healthcare professionals have to have human trafficking awareness training in order to renew their license.
I love that, Karen. And let me tell you what I know as someone who's talking to people all over. People have told me the single biggest thing they feel is missing is exactly what you're doing. Because when a youth has been exploited, everyone's traumatized. Everyone's traumatized. The parents, the siblings, the youth themselves. No one knows how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with the youth who's been exploited. This youth is acting out. You know, they have bursts of temper, as I'm sure you know all this. They cry for no reason. They don't know how to deal with them. So for you all who's on this call, if you know of, say, a nonprofit in your area, you might want to ask them to contact Karen. And Karen, please put your contact information in the chat so they can duplicate her program. Personally, I think that all these nonprofits, and maybe I have no right to say this, who are working with victims and doing that, if they could have a program for the families, that would be great. Let me ask you a question. Is this program for families, is this something that volunteers could be trained to do, so a nonprofit could offer it if they got enough volunteers?
The counseling is provided by trauma-informed counselors, so they're specially trained counselors. So I doubt that volunteers would really be the right people for that. I think that the mentoring program that we offer could be expanded so that volunteers could provide mentoring for those siblings, which we don't do at this point.
Okay, very good. Where I am, I'm in Southern California. The program that is being offered through social services, they have a similar program, is because there's so many are exploited in Los Angeles. They have an advocate, a parent advocate whose daughter was trafficked. And through her healing and everything, she is in a position to talk to families. So they'll have the counselors, but she leads the classes for the parents. And then they can get one-on-one counseling from time to time, but they actually have a class which facilitates this whole thing. And if you want, you can email me and I'll put you in touch with her about how that's set up if you're interested, Karen.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Judith, you had a comment?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, were you done, Karen? Are you guys done?
Yeah.
I also want to share one other thing that I do with my organization, the Ladies of Peter Claver. We're doing a Parish Drive to support an organization that serves human trafficking victims. So we're going to do a Parish Drive
Good.
to get, items for them, mainly feminine toiletries and, food and non-perishable items is what I'm trying to say.
Beautiful.
So
We love that. And the nonprofits love it. So Patrick, go ahead. What would you like to share?
Yeah, so since we started FatherCon in 2018, basically to address the important role that fathers play in disrupting both the supply and the demand of this issue. So we've been holding film screenings, like with a panel discussion afterwards on various topics from foster care to cyber safety. And then we have an annual conference. So we have the conferences coming up this April. This will be our 5th FatherCon, which is really to educate on and inspire people about the role of the father. Fatherhood has really been diminished since the 1960s as its significance as it relates to early childhood development and the protection of children. So we really tried to invigorate kind of an awareness of how important the father is, and to really inspire fathers also that their role is critical, and that when they check out, there's really serious consequences to that, including children being extremely vulnerable to traffickers. So we're continuing this, and we do a combination of things, speaking at churches, speaking at any kind of organization where we can, and to really encourage fathers to be very clear about their role and their responsibility, when it comes to their own behavior, but then also in how they relate to their children. The thing that I found to be the most lacking is that we've stopped emphasizing integrity. We live in a culture that's constantly endorsing selfish indulgence and self-gratification at all costs. And we really need to get back to where we're emphasizing integrity, and that our real joy as human beings comes when we actually are trustworthy, where we can trust ourselves, and we can also be trusted, especially by our children. That's critically important. So all of our events are prevention oriented. Everything is for the purpose of prevention. So we don't work specifically with survivors. We don't work on the kind of the front lines, so to speak. Everything is how to mobilize an awareness and actions that people can take that will prevent kind of vulnerability that can be exploited by traffickers. I think that's
very good. Let me ask you a question. Are your events streamed, or you have to be in the location?
So far we've only done them in present, like that you have to attend. That's something we really want to kind of develop for the future, because we have interest in Africa and Europe. This year I spoke at the UN in Vienna, and there was a lot of response of just people saying nothing's being done about fathers. So I think we had response from Chile. So there's a need all over, and until we can actually go and start to do conferences in those places, we really do need to stream it. So any support for that, if you know ways that we can, make it a hybrid event, it would be extremely helpful.
Yes. Yes, that's one good thing about Zoom. Everyone's Zoom trained now, and people can do hybrid, and it makes it possible for these specialized types of events for people to participate. Kathy, what are you doing?
Hi, Saddleback Church in Southern California. We have right now a team of 3 leaders, and 2 are very good at organizing. I'm not one of them. And they organized an amazing Christmas party this last month. I think it was 60, Liddell was part of it. And it was 67 children of survivors. And then I think it was 47 mothers. And they brought, some of them were married, have brought their husbands, and the wish list. That was something that some people like to do just once a year, is to donate something incredible for a survivor, like a computer so she can finish college, or a pair of socks or some pajamas. But it goes the gamut. So that was successful. And in April, we're going to have a 2-day retreat. We do that annually at one of our campuses. And the ladies come, basically the same ladies, but the more are coming. They come, and we have rooms for all these women. And they can come overnight and get pampered and get taught cooking classes and get facials, and they're all volunteers. And these people, again, love to just do that one event, and then they've done what they want to do for the year. The most exciting thing is this last week, after kind of a lull of trying to get through to people on the awareness, that's my passion, and prevention, like Susan said.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy. All right, Joe.
Sorry, unmuted. Well, let me just throw out that in our diocese, we have a talk called it's an End the Demand talk. The concept is to get men's groups to understand that what's involved with trafficking, particularly sex trafficking, that men are the reason, and then men can therefore impact and stop it if we raise awareness as to what's really going on, and they get involved with, like Patrick said, be good fathers, or go out and try to help the community identify what's going on, talk to the police, talk to the schools. Those are the things you could get involved with doing. The points you made at the beginning, Susan, are very good. We've only got one out of people, so if we have an awareness event, which I've had many, but if there's nothing follow-up to do, and after a while, those people just aren't interested anymore. They moved on to something else. So it does mean you want to get ready with some ideas as to what to do. Some of the books, like your book and some other ones. Anyway, deacons are, everybody's different. We're in different parishes. Sometimes that parish is ready for a talk like that, and sometimes it isn't. But it's good to have people aware, and in the parishes, in the churches, ask for something like that, because we always need to have the pastor be willing and be interested, in fact, before we can give a talk with the support of the community. So I was going to say the asking for it, just like asking your PTA to make sure that the training is done well, asking the police, ask your pastor, your church leaders, and we have such a talk. And it could be a survivor focused one. I've heard some of those. It could be, in our case, a men in the demand focused one. Still all raises awareness, and women can come too, but it's trying to put it on, hey, we got to take action to stop at the source. And it can be effective, but talks are available. I can put my info in the chat if you want. If you got a church that wants to hear a talk aimed at men, raising awareness and what needs to be done, we'd be happy to give it. But it's true, you need to have get involved with foster care support, to try to remove some of the potential vulnerable targets, or something, a survivor group you want to support, so that there's a next thing to do, or people who want to go to their school or school district. You got to know your community first. But anyway, that's probably enough. I'll put my info in there if you're interested in the demand talk, approved by our diocese. So
reason why I wanted to have you speak of this is, let's face it, for those of you who are speakers, if you just call a church or you call whatever, you want to do a talk, they don't know who you are, they don't necessarily trust you, they don't know if you're going to get graphic, they don't know a lot of things about you. If a deacon can call all the churches in their denomination, whether they're Catholic, Lutheran, Pentecostal, whatever, most denominations have deacons. They can call any church in their area and say, I'm a deacon for, and name the church they're a deacon for, and I have this talk, and I think it's important for these 3 reasons why we should be talking about this. They will let that deacon talk. Now, his particular talk is, he does it with men's groups, which Joe has, refined a talk for men about being buyers, being fathers, things like that. They'll let him in because he's a deacon. So I'm just letting you know this, for those of you who, are part of churches, is go to your deacons and say, is God calling you to do something about this? You have an access very few people have to get in lots of churches and talk. Here's a deacon who's doing it. Why don't you contact him and find out what he's doing, how he's calling churches, things like that. We could, mobilize very quickly. And the thing you said is this, and I do want to reiterate that point. Once people have been to one event, they're not going to come back to another event. You've got one opportunity to mobilize those people. And if we mobilize them and got them to start taking action, it would totally change the face of what we're doing. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but we're losing. Human trafficking is getting worse. There aren't enough nonprofits and law enforcement. We don't have enough resources in those 2 arenas to really end this. We need to mobilize the community. So that's what this conversation, this event is about, is to, how can you do this? We're getting other ideas from people to do it. I'm sure you have your own ideas for, you know, whatever organization you're part of that where you want to mobilize people. One thing I do want to point out is this. One of the things I've heard from churches, and it's more of a comment than a complaint, is when they have a nonprofit speak, the only action they tell people to do is give us money. I think that's great. They need money. I want to encourage people to give money to nonprofits. But so only the people in the audience can do that, can take action, can afford to do that. Everyone else is left like, oh, I guess there's nothing I can do, else I can do. You want to go through lots of actions if you're a nonprofit that people can do, lots of actions. One being donate to you or have a drive or whatever. Then people feel empowered. They feel appreciated. Like you really are up to ending, you know, trafficking. It's not just support your nonprofit. So I'm just giving you that feedback for those of you who are part of nonprofits. All right, Joy, go ahead. You've had your hand up for a while.
Hey. So
Hey.
I have two things. One thing is like what we're doing. For about 10 years, we've just been supporting local organizations that are helping survivors move from the streets into permanent housing.
Good.
What we do is we actually just get a list from them of all the items that they need. We create, you know, like cute social media posts. And then we are the hands and feet that go around and collect, you know, lamps, beds, dressers, tables, all that. We pay for the trucks, and then it's just volunteers move stuff from point A to point B, because most nonprofits don't have that built into their budget, and they don't have the capacity to actually help them
Great.
get the things that they need. So we've been doing that for about 10 years, and it's been just like a super helpful thing for
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The other thing that's, because it seems like some folks on here are like working directly with survivors. I just wanted to, I put the information in the chat, but I just wanted to verbalize Survivor Alliance is an international organization that was started by a survivor of trafficking. They have two things. They just came up with an action plan that survivors were paid to create based on their own passions for what the global anti-trafficking movement should look like. So this is survivor informed. They were paid $50 an hour to consult and build this action plan. It has a lot of calls to action for allies and other survivors. It took about 6 months to make. And it's just like really helpful and has different, you know, sections depending on what you're interested in. So it does have that, like, I think 4 or 5 part section. So I put that in the chat. This same organization also has a leadership program for survivors who are wanting to get involved in advocacy or research or politics. So it's an 18-month program that survivors can apply to, and it's all virtual. And they would actually like work with the survivors to find out like what their goals are. They teach them, they give them all of those marketable skills that they can use to also get jobs. And then they place them in, if they want to do an internship, everyone gets placed in an internship with an advocacy group that is centered on trafficking. So also if any of your programs are interested in being a host site for survivors in your community, they would be able to intern with you. And then it's a whole, like, just everyone's consulting on each other's stuff. And it's just like a very collaborative thing. The organizations are telling how it's gone, the survivors are telling how it's gone, and then Survivor Alliance kind of like informs everyone on what they see as, you know, changes they can make or whatever. And then the second internship, they can choose another organization to do it with, or they can choose a capstone project where they just really pursue for 6 months, like their passion and what they want to bring to the movement. So just all of that's in the chat. There's also a bunch of resources just for like national, anything I put in the chat was like national, because I wanted it to be applicable to everybody. But yeah, really great. They're a really great team. I just wanted to kind of, they just posted the action plan. So like, this is perfect. Everyone's working together and that's what they do. So
perfect. Joy, I can see, I mean, my main focus has been on churches because I just wanted to focus. And I can tell you, you know how at the end of a service, they'll let you, they do announcements like the picnic's coming up, the, you know, whatever. They could easily at a church connect in the way you talked about and say, hey, those of you who have trucks, could you meet me at the end? We have the, the survivor of human trafficking who needs help moving. We like to know who you are, that they would have everyone they need.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. And then, and it takes it off the table.
Yeah.
And not only that, for the difficulty of trying to make that happen, like you said, they don't have a budget, and the survivor feels so supported, right?
Yeah,
Right.
they really
By
do.
stuff
They
like
don't
that.
expect much. And then almost every time we've just come with like, no, we have everything on your list, because like people
Yes.
have stuff and they need someone to come take it. So
Yes.
it's like helps the community too. It's nice.
Yes, absolutely. It's very nice. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That was brilliant.
Yeah,
Go
thanks.
ahead, Liddell.
Good morning. I have a ministry, Beacon for Victims at a Refuge Calvary Chapel in Huntington Beach, California. And we do a lot of things. I bring awareness by speaking to groups. We also help survivors and victims. But just to point out one example, we did an event last May to bring awareness. So we had speakers, we had a mother whose daughter was being trafficked, and a victim, a former victim, a survivor, and a counselor to show the importance of getting counseling after this has happened for the whole family. Then we had a detective, a private investigator that investigates missing, exploited children. And I think the point I'm trying to make is bringing in all these other people and not trying to do it yourself, the experts, like Susan often does, is really a good way to spread the word, get different perspectives. And for men, if somebody like Isaac or Patrick, a man talks men to men, it's more effective than me talking as a woman to men.
Yes.
And so we've done that. So Isaac, Patrick, and Kathy have all been participants, exhibitors, speakers in these things. But I wanted to point out the thing that really helped after my last event, which was held at the church in the sanctuary. I got feedback, and this is where I feel the Lord helps me understand the impact that these things are happening on people. I could go on, but one of the stories, and I've received permission from the adults to tell these stories. One of them was the detective was talking about the tactics that a trafficker or a predator will use on social media. There was one 16-year-old girl who looked up at her mom sitting next to her and said, "That happened to me." Wow. And the thing that's very impactful when you hear that, the thing is, that's what we're trying to do, is bring awareness and open the conversation between parents and their teens that this is happening. And there was another girl who was living with her grandmother, was her caregiver, and she had already sent, fortunately, this young girl, the first one, nothing had happened. She stopped it before he said something weird, and she didn't like it, so she stopped it. There was another 14-year-old girl, her grandmother, she was her caregiver. She had already sent pictures of herself in her underwear and thought it was no big deal, and grandma didn't know what she was talking about. Well, grandma brought her to this, and after that, grandma told me their relationship did a 180, and the little girl realized what she had done and the impact of doing that, and her relationship with her grandma improved after that. So we are helping by bringing awareness. I believe we need to be helping victims and survivors, but I think the awareness is the first step to getting help and bringing these people aware that it is happening, and there are things that you can do to stop it.
Yes, I agree. You've been called to prevention. Others have been called to taking care of survivors. We all go, God is doing this perfectly. We just need more people. Go ahead, Kiana. Did I get you to pronounce your name right finally? And then Isaac, go ahead.
Hi, how is everybody doing today? Yes, you did get my name right this time. Thank you so much. So my name is Kiana, and I am a survivor of trafficking, and I am here to fight for those who are still out there, and I'm ready to give my all. I have a beautiful group of men and women. We're called Angels of Hope. We are under our church, Ecclesia Christian Fellowship, Pastor Joshua Beckley. He fires us up every Sunday, and we are just ready to go out there and do what we are born to do, what God has created us to do. So what we're doing right now is we go out into the streets And we have found different ways to sneak phone numbers, emergency phone numbers to these girls. So we are actually face to face with the working ladies. And we're hitting the worst areas. We put a ticket, a sticker on a hand sanitizer keychain like this. And so when they open it, they pull it up and they see for emergency call. And then they get to have a phone number on here that will reach one of our ladies in our ministry, Angels of Hope. While we're speaking to the ladies, we've got our guys out there speaking to the pimps, trying to bring Jesus to them too, because everybody has a story. Hurt people, and they need the Lord too. I'm attending the event on the 20th. We're doing walks. As many as we're going to be invited to this year, we're going to be there. I'll be speaking and sharing my story and talking about prevention and things to look out for. I think that manipulation is one of the biggest things that is causing a problem, because you don't realize you're a victim because you've been so far into the manipulation that you just think you're a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And you know, these traffickers, they're pretty smart and pretty tricky in what they do. So it's yeah, so we're out there to bring awareness to all these different things, and we're going to be going to the streets at least once, twice a month to try to hand these phone numbers out and help our city to bring people to the Lord.
I love it. All right, Isaac.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Isaac McKeithen with the EPIC Project in Southern California. I just wanted to say I am actually partnering with a few organizations here in Southern California, speaking, giving men an opportunity to get involved. What we do, we are the action piece. So if you have men that you have in your organization that need something to do, you can reach out to me. My contact information is in the chat. We give them directly something to get involved in, and it's pretty rewarding. I have teams all over Southern California right now. We cover every county for the exception of San Diego, and we are working on San Diego right now. So we also have 19 other locations across the country. So if you're not in Southern California, don't feel bad. We have teams in Texas, Kansas City, Portland, Oregon. We're all over. So I just want to share that, and great to see everyone on here. And Joe, I did reach out to you. So thank you all very much.
Isaac, I actually want you to just state what the EPIC Project does, like, you know, the fake ads or what, I forget. It's not called fake, it's called something else. Exactly what you do.
So what the EPIC Project does, we actually are a group of men who focus on ending the demand. We actually talk to the buyers of sex trafficking, and we don't bring a legal law enforcement approach to it. We're not trying to get these guys in trouble and lock them up. We're actually bringing a conscious effort to where we're trying to transform their hearts and get them to thinking about what they're doing before they get involved in the legal system, because we know through statistics that just because you incarcerate a man for buying sex doesn't mean he's going to get rehabilitated. So our what we focus on is actually getting these guys resources and into addiction facilities to help change the way they think and help them get through whatever has got them to the point that they're buying sex and it's okay. So that's what we offer. And we do also do a follow-up with these guys to walk through their recovery with them. So
very good. But I think what I want people to understand is what you do is you run, what is it, decoy ads, where men are calling to buy sex, and instead they get a Christian man to talk to them about what they're doing. And that's how it starts, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. I just want to, so people, Reverend Beckley, you're up.
Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Joy to be on and listen to all the work that's being done across the country and across the state. And we're just excited about what God is doing to help bring about an end to this pandemic. Our Angel of Hope ministry is a little less than a year old, and God has given us much favor in the county of San Bernardino. This month, as you guys all know, is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we have 4 events happening in this county related to human trafficking, working with county agency called CASE, which is a coalition against sexual exploitation, along with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department. They're having a symposium. They do it every year. All these organizations come together to share information. This year, we're working on really pushing many of our churches, along with volunteers, to be a part of that. I've set up a meeting with various pastors who's going to be meeting with the heads of the teams from the human trafficking from the police department, as well as from CASE, after the symposium, to talk about what our ongoing efforts are going to be throughout the rest of the year, to educate, to inform, as well as to mentor volunteers from our various churches to be mentors for these young ladies that we are trying to get off the streets and get out of this environment. So we're really excited about that. Kiana talked about a rally, a march that's taking place on the 20th that she'll be speaking at, and that we'll be marching through the city of Rancho Cucamonga regarding bringing awareness to human trafficking in that city. The symposium is going to be in Rancho Cucamonga, but it's for the entire county. We're looking at hopefully getting about 300 or 400 people there from churches as well as from the community to inform and educate them. Our goal with Angels of Hope this year is to be more intentional about educating our community and informing our people about what they need to look for when it comes to human trafficking. One of the things Susan talks about in her book, they dwell in ignorance, and our goal is to remove the ignorance in our community, make people aware.
Yes, I'm actually going to be speaking at the CASE conference. They're doing a fabulous job. San Bernardino County has really got it dialed in with regard to connecting everybody.
Look forward to seeing you there.
Very good. All right, make sure, because there are people on the call, they may not live in San Bernardino County, but they may know someone. So please do make sure you put that information, and again, start with San Bernardino County so that people know to read that one, what you're talking about. Very good. Kat, where are you? I noticed you had your hand up. Very good. All right, Atlanta. Do you know, I don't know if you know this or not, but it used to be California was #1. Now Georgia's #1 for human trafficking because of what's happening mainly in Atlanta. So please go ahead. I'm very interested to hear what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Hello from the east side of the United States to most of you on the West Coast. One of the things we found, I'm with the Archdiocese of Atlanta, which is 1.3 million Catholics in North and Central Georgia. And one of the biggest issues we've come across is people don't believe it's happening. And
Yes.
we're #1 in the country in these incidences. And so we kind of are taking a 2-part approach to this. The first is our goal this year is to make sure that every single one of our over 100 parishes or congregations have some kind of an awareness event, whatever it might be, and all that. And the way we're doing that is most of them, there's only a handful who have a ministry that is focused on human trafficking. So we're going in through other ministries. It might be through the Knights of Columbus. It might be through the ladies group, through the social justice group, but we're going in through already established ministries and working with them because that gives us some credibility in the parish and bringing the speaker. It's not me. We tell them, we'll help you find somebody. We really suggest that whenever they have this, though, that they bring in law enforcement in their local community. So in their particular city or county or town, that they're hearing what's actually happening there. So it's not, because so many people we find are seeing this and saying, oh, that happens somewhere else.
Right.
That happens in another neighborhood. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. The other thing that we're doing as we go in is starting by this awareness, but almost identical to what you presented. At the end, we're giving people the choice. You know, you could just show up and want to be informed. But if you want to do more than that, what can you do? So we're making sure that we go in and we're giving all of the information, but we're also offering them options based on their passions, their interests or their ability.
Perfect.
Talent. It's also, you mentioned deacons. We are really focusing on our deacons and our priests, our religious, to, if nothing else, mention it from the pulpit at least once this year, so that this is something that, because a lot of times people, if they don't hear it from the pulpit, it's
agree.
just something out there. So we're really pushing them to at least one time this year mention human trafficking or something around that from the pulpit, because that then is more likely to bring people to an awareness event.
Very good. I love it. So one of the things I want to underline what Kat talked about is I've talked to many churches where they have one person who's really on fire, called by God. They don't have a ministry, but they leverage their other ministries. So they'll ask the women's group to do something to recruit good foster parents. They'll ask the teen group to do something on fair trade. So the teens will be standing outside of service and have a table, and they love doing it, by the way, and educating people on what fair trade is and things like that. And then they'll ask the men's group to do something else. They'll ask the retired group to do their fundraisers for the nonprofits. Retired people, they have time, and a lot of them are former executives. They know how to organize things. They know how to make it happen. So leveraging your already existing ministries, you already have a group. And what I love about human trafficking is it's nonpartisan. It's not political. You can go up to any group and say, we need to do something to protect vulnerable children. And they say, of course, we want to help. They don't start, arguing with you and go, no, we don't support that or whatever. So it's good. So that's also something to keep in mind, definitely, where you could get a whole church up online very quickly by leveraging the already existing ministries.
I will say the last thing, and then I'll be quiet, but the other thing that we've found in doing this work, and I've been doing this for almost 15 years with the Archdiocese, and that is that never once in the whole time have I ever talked about this and somebody saying, oh, I'm okay with what's going on.
Of course
So
not, right.
it's in some ways, it's a really easy sell
Yes.
to get in, or to say we want to do something. It's turning that corner and engaging them to take action. And that's what we're really focusing on by informing, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do something, and they don't know anything about it. So I want to make sure they understand what it is. And then we really want to harness where they're passionate.
Very good. I love it. And the other thing I just want to add is different churches are committed to different things. Like, I've talked to churches and they go, we can't do anything about that because our focus is on the homeless, or our focus is on something else. I always commend them and say that's awesome, because people who are homeless are very vulnerable to becoming trafficked. So I always validate that. I don't act like my issue is more important than their issue, right? So I always validate that. The other thing is when you can expand what it is you're asking people to do that touches on other issues. So for instance, we know with foster children, there's significant, once they become emancipated, there's significant percent of the homeless. There's 70% of the people in prison. So if you can go to your prison ministries and say, hey, help me do a recruitment for good foster parents, because it's in alignment with what they're passionate about. So you connect people's passions to what you're asking to do, which is what Kat pointed out. I just wanted to underline that. You're going to get people to, really, they're going to push you aside and really run to take action. Because they're passionate. They want to do it. So I like that. That's key. So go ahead, Susanna, you've been waiting a while. Go for it.
Hi, I'm also from the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey. I belong to Evangel Church in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. I'm also involved in CAN, which is Church and Community Abolition Network. Between the two of us, we've done awareness for our congregation, and we recently did an awareness for our deaf, which we hope to expand further this year to not just our congregation, but the deaf as whole, because they don't have a lot of information about human trafficking. We support survivor homes with one home with either finances or gift cards for the women during Christmas time. And also some of our ministry groups go over there and they'll do either Bible studies, or like for next week, we're going to go and do game night, which will be a lot of fun for these women. And we also are involved with hotel outreaches. We just did one recently in October, and that was very successful. And we've been sending out decals with the number for the National Human Trafficking Hotline, as well as suicide prevention to schools, or to our bathrooms, to pregnancy centers. So I'm very happy to be involved in this presentation right now because I'm getting a lot of ideas. So thank you.
Good. That was the point. That was the point. And by the way, for those of you here for the first time, this is pretty much the format I use, where I'll have a speaker do a short presentation and then the group shares. Because again, these are leaders and we want to hear what they're doing and their points of view, and they bring up things that speakers never thought of or whatever. So again, this way we connect and we empower each other, which is the point. It's not just about being educated. It's really important that we do that. And I always send out the video afterwards so you can share it with others, the meeting, because people are definitely interested. And these are very high caliber people who are speaking. I mean, I personally am very impressed by the people who have shared today. And I have been doing this for 12 years. I'm very impressed by what you're doing. And the other thing I want to say about this, and then Ruby, I'm going to have you share, is it's totally different than when I was doing this, say, even 10 years ago or 5 years ago, in terms of the way people are sharing. People like 8, 9 years ago, they were at a loss as to what we could be doing. They had no idea what we could be doing. And here you have one example after the other, what people are doing, which is very encouraging. So we are building critical mass. Maybe we haven't turned the corner, but we are building critical mass. People do have a very good idea of what to do, and they're doing it, which is huge. That's huge. And I really want to acknowledge God in that, because God's the one who called us to do all this. So, you know, it's great. So go ahead, Ruby. You can unmute yourself.
Am I there? I'm there.
Yeah.
Good afternoon from Jacksonville, Florida. I do human trafficking education for Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of St. Augustine, and we did produce a prevention-focused video that I already put in the link for junior high, appropriate 6th grade and up, junior high, high school, and even college students. Also, we're going to use it for our refugees that are coming through, because it is rudimentary about grooming, sextortion, and a little bit about how pornography fuels sex trafficking. But we also, in the end of January, are doing, in partnership with Baptist Hospital, any licensed medical professional, from respiratory therapists to physicians, are being offered 2 hours of continuing education credit if they come to this seminar that we will be holding. So it also, like this group, is going to inform each other of what other hospitals are doing, as well as give people an opportunity to, we all know that victims, a lot of victims, more than half, have been to some kind of health care provider during their victimization. So
98%.
Yeah, we're focusing on
being a healthcare
healthcare this
professional.
year, but maybe next year will be the hotel industry, because here in Florida, that's a big deal.
Yes.
So, but thank you for this information. And Susan, I have both your books. I'm a fan.
Good. I appreciate that. One advantage the faith community has in fighting human trafficking is people from every walk of life attend a church. So that flyer I'm going to attach that gives 14 different trainings. It talks about the hotel industry as one. It shows you where UPS drivers, all of those people, there are trainings for just about every professional now. And until you have a chance to actually focus and get it going, you could just have churches be putting that flyer out at their awareness events, and people will pick it up and they will go to work. They will, because they want to do something, especially when you tell them 98% of the health professionals. And the other thing we know, survivors, you mentioned the hotel industry, they have said that other than their pimp, the other person they most likely have had an encounter with is a hotel personnel. Go ahead, Gloria. Gloria, I apologize. You did have your hand up.
Anyway, I live in Burbank and I belong to St. Francis Xavier Church. And I also belong to an international organization that one of our mission is to combat human trafficking. And we are hosting a human trafficking awareness seminar at the end of January. We will be having someone from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Human Trafficking Task Force. And as a matter of fact, someone mentioned about having law enforcement involved in your seminars. And I recall, Susan, 2018, when you gave a presentation and we had our police chief at the time who did not believe that human trafficking was happening here in our little beautiful community of Burbank. And his eyes were opened. And not only did he take your book, but he took a lot of information because he didn't realize, he just said, oh, it's just prostitution. I will never forget those words. And through our church, we've also had human trafficking forums and seminars. One of those led to the PTA president asking the Homeland Security investigation agent to come and give a presentation because some of the parents found a couple of the 5th and 6th graders watching porn on their phones. So it was an education for the parents to know what the signs are and how to control the parental controls on their phones. But we are constantly, one of the things, before I forget, one of the things that we've done here in Burbank, in California, back in 2017, there was a law that was signed that certain businesses had to have human trafficking posters that gave the 888 number for the human trafficking hotline. And I have gone through to some of those businesses. No one here has the poster. So California's law, unfortunately, has no teeth. So what we've done was we made a presentation to City Council. They're in the process of working out an ordinance so that we could have it presented this month or next month. And these businesses will have will have to be putting up their posters, or they'll be fined $500 for the first offense and $1,000 for the subsequent offenses. So just wanted to get that in, and that's it.
Love it. And we know that works to put up posters. The problem is they passed that law, but they didn't put any money behind it.
Right.
That we should get posters. So it's up to us as volunteers to get a group together. By the way, this is something the youth group does well, really well, because they have the energy. Is you say, we're going to put these posters up. And what people do is they show the law to the business owners that states they need to have it. They're just not aware they need to have it, right? They don't even know it's a law. Maybe an ordinance more than a law. It's showing the law. It says here, you need to have this up. Where would you like me to put it? And then put it up before you leave. Don't just hand it to them. Put it up. The teenagers love it. The youth groups love doing stuff like that. You just got to drive them around. They feel so validated.
As a matter of fact, once the city attorney sends out all these notices to the businesses, we will be training volunteers through Journey Out, which is a nonprofit organization here, and also through the National Council of Jewish Women. So
beautiful. Yeah. I love it. All right. So Kate, Nan, I'm gonna let you share, but if you could please keep it to 2 minutes, I'd appreciate it so we can end on time. Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. My name is Kate Liddell, and I'm a survivor, and I'm the founder of Cherished LA. We are in LA County. We have 2 homes for women, for survivors, and we just opened a second home we have a bed available, one right now for a mom with a baby. So that's what we do. We have a social enterprise, and yep, we work with all these women. So it's wonderful. I just released my book, and it's my memoirs called Exposed: Surviving the Commercial Sex Industry. And for my launch, I am also launching an art exhibit that will be traveling, that's going to be showing stories of other survivors. And my hope is that this will travel and grow, and we'll have more artists that will want to come and work with survivors, not just survivors from Cherish, from any organization that wants to get involved, so that we can tell these stories, not only the stories of harm and how domestic trafficking is happening, but also show the victories and where these women are now, and the success stories. So that's on January 20th.
Make sure you put your contact information. People want to connect. Gloria, I had a question for you. Could you unmute yourself, please? Which is, where do people get a copy of the law that says that they should have posters? Not just in the state of California, it's many states. Is it the California Attorney General? Is that where they find it?
They go onto the office of the Attorney General's office, and they have what I consider a bland sign, but it's basically the information that they need. And a
Okay.
lot of the counties actually come up with a much more
I agree with you. I like the
aesthetic.
counties better, but the state attorney general is where they have the copy of the law that
Correct.
people can print out and then show. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Anne.
Hi, I'm here with Anne. My name is Donna Aldis. We're from Canada, and we seem to be a little bit behind everyone. This is our second year of having human trafficking awareness declared in our city. It was proclaimed last year, and we have a human trafficking awareness sign, flag that we will be raising at City Hall on February 22nd. So it was, I believe, in 2007 that nationally it was declared Human Trafficking Awareness Day, February 22nd. So in Canada, we have a Catholic Women's League organization nationally. So our parish, St. Anne's, our CWL, got together and decided that this was a passion for a few of us. So after our flag raising this year, which is our second year, we will be walking to a parish close by. We will be having coffee, and the fair trade coffee thing I think we're going to use. That's wonderful. And speakers on what we've accomplished in our first year, what we hope to accomplish. And this is absolutely amazing information that we've gotten from you. We've been looking for resources and have really had to struggle to find it. So this is a gold mine. We are actually hosting the National CWL Convention in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in August, and I'm hoping that we can have information there that will mobilize every parish in Canada with a CWL in it. So that's what we need, is more awareness, how we can get the word out to the different people that can help us. It's got to stop, and we're part of the solution.
Very good. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put the names of my books again. You can get them at Amazon. The books are almost entirely focused on what you can do. And when I speak, by the way, I can speak on cyber exploitation. I can speak on all of it. But people ask me to speak at the end because I'm the one who's the most educated on what people can do, at least in this area. And that's what I do. I spend about 10 minutes validating things, kind of like I've done here and what people have said so far, pointing it out. And then I start talking about what people can do. And what happens when you do that is people walk out empowered. They want to do something. They want to do something. Otherwise, what they've actually found, behavioral science found, that when you tell people how bad something is without telling them what they can do about it, you drive them into resignation. You actually put them in a dark place because there's this horrible thing. They want to do something, but there's nothing for them to do. They're helpless. It's like, it's not healthy, by the way. You really want to do focus on and put together. And what a lot of people have talked about, like Kiana, that her church actually has a whole thing that they're doing that they can promote, get people involved. That's awesome. But the other thing I want to say about that is find out what's happening in your area. So you may not have an active ministry like Kiana does, but you can connect with her church. And, you know, and I hope that Reverend Beckley, that case allows you to do that so people can know to connect with your church, because you're already way ahead of the game compared to maybe other churches in your area. So you can train their volunteers, you can inspire them to start ministries. We want, you know, we definitely want to do that. So it's worthwhile. People have asked me all the time to let them know every church I've ever interacted with and who's doing what. That would take a team, a huge team of people constantly updating that. I'm just not in a position to do that. So I want to encourage you to do that on your own. Just call around, find out. Especially what you want to do is, if anyone has an awareness event in your area and they ask for questions or whatever, stand up and say, hi, I'd like to know any other churches or any other organizations in this area that are doing something. Could you please, whatever, gather in the right-hand corner in the back at the end, something like that. So I want to invite you, because you're leaders, to be an advocate like that for any event that you attend. Because when people connect they're inspired. This is a very lonely thing to try to do on your own because it's brutal. It's very dark, it's very brutal, it's heavy. But when you have people you're doing it with, you're constantly uplifted, you pray together, it makes all the difference in the world. So I'll end with that statement. I kind of went over a little bit, that's fine. God bless all of you and what you're doing. I pray for you all the time. Let's continue to pray for each other. Have a blessed day, all of you. Thank you very much. And again, I'm going to keep the chat open.